And good evening, and I welcome you to the Finance Committee meeting of February the 4th, 2015. If I could have a roll call, please.
Yes, we have here Joan Fontes.
It's fine.
Fontes, all right. Tom Worthen, Jeff Langen, Donna Bronk, and Bonnie Jean Coutuli.
Do I have any citizens' participation?
Thank you.
That brings us to the Town Administrator's report. When you're ready, sir.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Everyone should have the budget packet in front of them with the two proposals. If you want, I can read off the memorandum on there to the committee. In FY15, the balance was budgeted by cutting services and positions that impacted the following areas: Council on Aging, Library, Police Department, Municipal Maintenance, and the town's financial team. Also not included in that list, but important, is the school department. These decisions were not made lightly and reduced services to the town's residents. New revenues are projected to increase by $1,626,629, which represents a 2.83% increase over the previous fiscal year's revenues. To keep that number in perspective, FY16 non-departmental costs are projected to increase by $1,723,209, or 9.7% over what was budgeted for the same costs in FY15. The budgets requested by town and school departments outpace available revenues by $2,230,334, and expenses will need to be cut in order to balance the budget. To provide the board with as much information as possible, two budgets are being brought forth. One is named the requested budget, which provides the total requests and priorities of the town and school departments. Two is a balanced budget, which provides the balanced budget and the recommended administration priorities to the board. The FY16 balanced budget priorities are as follows: public safety, financial accountability, funding school department budget at a level that is 7.6% higher than the estimated minimum net school spending requirement, and risk management. The FY16 balanced budget also changes the way in which Wareham accounts for the costs associated with the school district. For the first time, the school is provided with a lump sum budget in which they're required to directly pay for such items as health insurance, retirement, benefits, and general insurances. As part of the change, there's a proposed mitigation fund that can only be accessed by a town meeting vote. The Wareham voters made it clear that there will be no supplement to the town's revenues. The employees, elected officials, and volunteers will need to continue to be creative and dynamic in the pursuit of delivering quality services. The FY16 balanced budget contains new practices and ideas that will require buy-in from the Board of Selectmen, School Committee, and Finance Committee. This is just a brief PowerPoint on here, and you'll see that the real estate and personal property taxes increase at just under 1.2 million. State aid, really they're not expected to go up much, a little under 95,000. Local receipts, they'll increase by 316,000. New hotels expected to increase the rooms tax by $136,000, and our motor vehicle excise has been increasing for the first time close to a decade, and that should increase by at least $170,000. Enterprise fund, the direct indirect cost, a little over $49,000, and that's just paying the town back for what it pays on behalf of the enterprise fund. Total revenue increases, so $1,626,629, or a 2.83% increase. Requested budget cost increases by the town were a little over 1.1 million, the school 963,000, The fixed costs and other fixed are about 168, almost 169,000. Benefits, general liability, about 765,000. The offsets and state assessments, which in other words reduce what we receive in aid, are expected to increase by 595,000. Upper Cape Cod Tech, 184,000, almost 185. They'll have 12 new students in there, so that's factored in there, plus a modest 2% increase to their budget. So the total increases in the requested budget are $3,790,984, which would be 6.79% higher than the FY15 budget. So obviously these costs would outpace our revenues. So when we talked about it, some of the increases, when you look at it, you'll see that the offsets, when we finally came to the numbers in this part of it, total about $603,000, the increases. Medical insurance, $403,000, which is the lowest increase we've had in years. So that's part of going to the Mayflower Municipal Health Insurance Group. Retirement contribution, almost $250,000. Upper Cape Cod Tech. Workers' comp, $101,000. General liability insurances, about $77,000. So altogether, these non-departmental increases in this portion is about $1.7 million. When talking about what are some of the examples of the town costs, the increases, we've settled 5 years worth of contract negotiations for 10 out of 11 unions. When you're always negotiating in arrears, you know the costs will come up upon you rather than being able to budget it incrementally every year. Those costs are just about $270,000. We're looking to effectively try and reestablish a police department that's been decimated by cuts. So actually have a chief and then 2 lieutenants. Right now we have a chief and 1 lieutenant, another detective, 4 new officers, and a dispatcher. And that's a large amount of money when you look at that, about almost $373,000. Have an additional IT staff member, about $52,000. 2 municipal maintenance staff, that's only $29,000. Last night I heard from the Board of Selectmen that they would like to see that increased, as I think we all would. Maintain the library staffing with no outside funds. We know that the funds used to support the library this year are drying up, so you'd need about an extra $83,000 over the $125,000 previously budgeted. Some of the cost increases we have were that transferred to the town side were the Hammond School, the Everett School, and West Schools. Looking to continue the cruiser lease program. For FY15, we ended up leasing 3 cruisers with the $99,000 that we had, and that actually gives us a little over $30,000 left in that funding line. So if we do that, if we move it up to the close to 120,000, 125, that'll allow us to use another 3, lease another 3 cruisers next year. So you'd have 3 new this year, then you'd have 3 that were 1 year old plus 3 that are brand new, and you can stagger them and bring them in and out of service as they become obsolete. Technology training and email, our email server, well not our server, who we get our email from is essentially going out of business for providing email to municipalities. I think we've all experienced the outages and such as well, so we know that probably sooner rather than later we need to get going. The schools are lucky in that they can get low cost, almost no cost email, but municipalities don't have that option, so you're probably looking at a $30,000 increase over what we currently have. We have the maintenance and costs on the town hall virtualization system, which is up and running, and but we still need to maintain that, and there's costs associated with that. Municipal maintenance, road repair and safety, $50,000. Also trying to get, we don't have a tree department anymore. Trying to actually trim back the trees, trim back the brush from roads. make it safer for when you come to the corners. We started doing some of that last year. We would like to do it all across the town and not just some sections. So you look at where the balanced budget takes us, and you can see that the total educational general fund spending is a little over $38 million, or a little over 66% of the budget. The municipal side is about a little over 17 million, or just under 30%, 29.82% of the budget. The proposed debt service, which I'd like to increase, is a little over 3% of the budget, or 1.75. That's something we've talked about. It is much better right now for us to be able to borrow for our projects, since we don't have to have the cash to pay for them. Borrowing is historically cheap, so we should use that capability that we have. We are nowhere near our borrowing limit. The public safety portion of the town budget, so not the overall budget, is just under 55% at 5.95 million. Municipal maintenance portion of the town budget is another 18%, or about 1.96 million. So overall, the general fund budget would be $57,443,886. Then you'll have, on the next pages, you'll see the requested budget, version 1. And then the next set you'll have is the balanced budget. And you'll see that inside the balanced budget, there you'll see the reduced to the reduction on page 5 of the employee benefits and offsets, and that they're transferred over to the net school spending line, which provides the school with a budget of about 33.68 million.
Question, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Derek, you mentioned that our borrowing debt is low. You said that we could borrow more. You said that, any idea what our borrowing limit would be? Percentage-wise or number-wise, or?
I mean, right now, really with us, our limit for what we have for our liabilities, the sky's the limit.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're nowhere near it. Our only problem is we can't afford to pay it back.
Well, being historic, I mean, the rates are so low, I understand that, but still, you can borrow money that cheap. I mean, I understand where you're coming from. Can you go back to that page where it says, the budget with the dots and the big arrow?
Mm-hmm.
If you do the math, 66.2%, 29.8, and 3.05. Then you go down to, it says public portion of town budget. That's not a percentage of the general fund, correct?
No, that's just of the overall town budget, so of the 17 million.
Okay.
That's not including, when you come down to it, when the total municipal general fund spending, that's including all the town's obligations for health insurance and everything like that. So when you look at the public portion of the town budget,
Right?
that's the portion of just the town budget, not including the benefits or anything like
Okay,
that.
because I was trying to add up the percentages.
Yeah, it wouldn't
Okay,
match up
right,
on
doesn't
that.
come out. Okay, thank you.
Follow-on question, on
Go
the
ahead, Jeff.
public safety, that's, when you say that's the town budget, that does not include the fire districts, is that correct?
No, it wouldn't.
That's town
It
budget.
includes includes like the Board of Health and inspectional services. Those all fall under for accounting purposes of public safety.
Fire districts are their own country. Fire districts are their own country.
Oh, shit.
For now.
For now, you'll never change that. Not like that.
Well, when you go belly up, you might.
It's been tried. How many times, Donna?
A lot.
In our lifetime it has.
A lot.
No, you're not giving up that gravy train.
We can't afford it, that's the problem.
Madam Chairman, could I make a
Go ahead,
comment to the
Donna.
town administrator? I just want to give your Department of Maintenance a little kudos there. They did a heck of a job for what they had. And I heard so many complaints, and I turned around and I said, didn't see you at town meeting. Didn't see you at town meeting. Don't open your mouth. If you're not gonna hire the people to do the job, don't complain, because they did a very, very good job for what you had to deal with.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I know they appreciate the
Sixth
support
largest
as well.
storm in history, it was tremendous what they did.
I mean, 15 years ago, we had 25 years ago, we had 40 people on the municipal maintenance, and how many do we have now? Is it 5 or 8?
There's about 8 that could actually operate out
8.
there.
8 people.
It was just as
And we're
good.
double a size since back then, so. People have complaints, they need to come to town meeting.
So obviously, this is going to be a lot to digest for the finance committee.
Usually, Madam Chairman,
Go ahead, Donna.
don't we get a bit more of a breakdown?
You
Per
will
budget
with the whole
department.
books on there. We've got
Gotcha.
everything together.
Okay.
You probably might have gotten them today, but staff's been out for a little bit.
I thought that might be the
Okay,
case.
no, I just was looking for a little bit more detail.
Yeah, we've got the same thing as last year, except we've got FY15's breakdown
Yeah.
of the employee description, including the salary, expenses, and then also the FTE status. We've got FY15 versus the FY16 requests, so you can go across, and we have them for each department.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, and then that'll be in the books. which
so
are-
those will be available.
Yeah, that's, I know we got the separators in today, so
Yep.
Susan should be working on that
Okay.
tomorrow.
Is that for next week?
Yeah, and they're green for money.
Oh, they're green for money.
Oh,
good.
really? Wow. I'm just
I think they were red last
Not
year,
red
so
for
we try to
one,
think positive. Should have been black, maybe.
I'm just running through, looking at a comparison to see if I can pick out like where the major losses were, but
Did you look at the governor's, what he's proposing to cut?
Yeah, it's not in the chapter 70 or the unrestricted general government aid. The only issues is there could be some cuts, I think with this charter
schools is what I read, yeah.
Yeah, but we'd have to see what that would mean. We just had a massive hit on the school choice sending of about $260,000 mid-year, which is going to reduce our fund balance. So it's going to be another hit. And then we have a direct offset that the school choice that the school receives. You don't see it in the budget because it goes directly to them. But I think they got knocked down from 200 to about 143,000. So that's another cut to their direct revenues of about 60,000. So
now, do we know what the reason for that was? Did they just overestimate, or?
an outgoing administration versus an incoming administration.
Yes.
Gotcha, okay.
Chris, don't quote me. I need a career.
So the charter, if the charter school thing goes into effect, it's gonna be a pretty big hit for us.
It could be. We'd have to see because they said it's broken. If you see, it's affecting you. What, years 2 through 5 or something? 2 through 5. So it's trying to figure out what that hit's going to be right now. It's just you really won't know it until you see what they're going to hit you with.
Right.
Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
Derek, have you heard, the governor said that he was gonna, where this snowstorm was so large, was trying to, get federal funding, disaster relief. Have you heard anything about that to help us with the snow and ice?
Right now, we're one of 7 counties that qualified to put in for relief.
Yep.
And they're asking that we put in one request from all the departments. Because the snowfall amount was enough, and now it's the expenditure amount. So we're gonna see with all the, in our counties, what all the expenditures were. And I can't remember what that amount had to be to qualify, but I'm thinking we will, and we'll get the 75% reimbursement on it.
That's good. So it does appear that we are gonna qualify for some relief for our snow and ice.
Yeah,
Cause the
we're
governor-
still, yeah, we're still, and I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay.
It's, it probably won't be enough to get it back to affect this fiscal year. So whatever we go into for deficit on the snow and ice, will reduce the free cash, most likely we'll get in FY16, so we have to wait another year to get any sort of benefit from it. Cause I guess we'll get the reimbursements past July 15th, and we'd have to get them in by then to account for this fiscal year's balance.
Okay, because he did seem pretty adamant on TV that they were gonna get it because of the snowfall amount.
Yeah,
Okay, that's good.
you know, it's,
I mean, I know it's not gonna help us right now, but, you know, any help to see in the future is gonna be a good thing.
yeah, you know, it's basically, you know, you'll get a check, let's not worry about spending it now, or you'll have issues, so.
Thank you.
Any other questions at this time?
No,
What do you,
Go ahead, Jeff.
what do you see as the process? I mean, we've got to take this, and at least the last time we met in October, we didn't want to go in for another override, which says that the balanced budget is the one that has to be the guideline, I guess. The process going forward, I think one of the things that at least I'm still fuzzy on is we got a finance committee, what are we aiming for? Balanced budget, because we're gonna have people coming through and we're gonna look at a town warrant in pieces. The budget's one piece, but there's all kinds of other things that have to go through it. And, you know, and I know they operate differently. I've been doing a lot of work looking at other towns and so forth. And some of them have a much stronger finance committee than we have. That includes putting out guidelines so you don't get into the situation you're in right now, which is frankly disappointing. That we would have people put together budgets that have no prayer. So,
I don't believe that.
what? I'm sorry, that's the role of a manager or administrator, that we have guidelines, and the town voted for a flat budget. The Board of Selectmen was real clear with the schools. It's not flat services, it's flat money. Less money, because you gotta fit the other stuff in. You start looking at it, I'm gonna hand this out later. But I have a question for the police department. I don't think he has a $600,000 over problem. I think he's got a 1.2 million problem. Because Middleborough and Sandwich both manage their police departments for a lot less than we do. And many other towns do.
Jeff, you're showing your newness to the community.
yes.
What's that?
You're
Yes.
showing your absolute newness to the community. Complete apples to oranges.
Maybe. Well, give me an example then. I'm open, but I'm not sitting there in a vacuum.
Road mileage is the biggest problem.
I got all that.
Crime statistics.
What?
Crime statistics.
Yep.
Can we get help from the state? Because they all get more, not Sandwich, but Middleborough gets a lot more money than we do.
From the state, from state aid.
Yeah, so does Gardner.
It's all formula driven.
What?
All formula driven.
Change the formula.
Change the formula.
Yeah, they're looking into it right now under the educational portion.
Well, some of the other stuff too, I mean, because you can do the analysis by, I do understand the town. Actually, I did the analysis by income, town by town, towns that have the same income as we do. Per person.
Forget, the sandwich income, and if you look at it.
That's higher, no, I'm not, no.
Yeah, you're looking, because I have family in Sandwich. I know the two communities, believe me, I've lived in one, I have family that live in one. You could not be going, you're talking about, you're going just under Chatham to Wareham. You really are.
So.
And I know you lived in Chatham, so that's why I'm throwing it out
What?
there.
That was only temporary, and then I moved out of it for a
Yeah.
reason. Okay, but I've also lived in a lot of other towns, and some of them are much closer to Wareham.
Yeah, one's a Boston commuter spot, a bedroom community, and one is Wareham.
So,
He's ready for you, Jeff.
no, okay. You look at it, so do we give up?
No,
Why don't we
Yeah.
why don't we just bag it?
No,
that's why we're here.
that's right, we keep struggling. I mean, you say that, you know.
Well, then, are we gonna do a balanced budget or not? And are we gonna say no to things?
We're
we
gonna,
always go
We've
to
done
town
it
hall
every
with
year.
balanced
We
budget.
balance the budget
We
every
have
year.
Every
have a
year, we
balanced
have to have a
budget.
balanced budget.
Okay.
regardless.
How do we
of-
get there?
We've gotten there every year so far, by
It's
cutting and
difficult,
slashing,
it's
yeah.
very difficult.
Okay.
We get there.
Madam Chairman?
Go ahead, Donna.
Obviously, I haven't digested all this, but I'm, just happened to look at the larger increases, and I see the enterprise fund, even what, you said the balanced budget versus the request, versus the, what they requested, is still a lot of money.
The enterprise fund is looking to establish a capital reserve fund as well, which is something that'll be brought forward in the articles,
Okay,
which isn't a bad idea, but it's, what I would prefer and what we're trying to bring forward is if you're going to have a reserve within the budget, the ratepayers and voters should have the right to know about it and vote whether they want that or they want to reduce their rates and not have it. Frankly, I think having the capital reserve is the smart and prudent thing to do, but it's up to the ratepayers and voters. And I
Yeah.
don't think,
I-
we're trying to be open about everything on this.
no, and that just kind of flew out, the number flew by me,
Sure.
quick,
The other thing is not everyone, is a serial user for that enterprise fund.
Well,
That's true.
unfortunately, that's what you've got to live with. That's the
Right,
policy, that's the way it works, babe.
There's my papers, babe, right there.
I'm actually looking at, I took a moment and went
I'm done.
straight down. I mean,
Sign mine.
the requested to balanced
Let me get
department budgets are the same.
Right. For
Okay,
the town, you're gonna have the same on the.
so we're the same there.
Yeah.
What we're looking at are really, the changes are in the school and the fixed costs,
shit. Live in Wareham.
the employee benefits, et cetera,
I think we have to.
and adjusting that into their, I think I'm gonna need a little, like, understanding of
Yeah,
how this is
simply
gonna
what-
work.
Right now, we pay almost, it's estimated to be about, I think, 10 to 12% above the minimum net school spending number. And we know as a community, we've been trying to keep it what is legally mandated, what can you legally require? Well, actually, the legal requirement is the minimum net school spending number. However, you're talking about something that would be even about $2 million lower than this. And I don't see how they'd operate on there. But if we're going, what's the minimum? I mean, we don't have the minimum for municipal maintenance. We don't have the minimum in any other department because it just doesn't exist. We're essentially floundering. I mean, yesterday I had with staff members, between some that were out and sick and everything, we had a selectman though that sat down at a desk to answer the phones because everything was ringing off the hook. And it wasn't him.
I know.
Yeah, so we have, we've got issues. And I can't fund a proper municipal maintenance department. We have an inspectional services department that makes money, yet we have them part-time. Realistically, if we were going to take the next step, it would be to have full-time plumbing and gas inspectors and having them out there because we're essentially losing money.
Losing money,
Yeah, but how do you do that? You need the money to get that back. And basically what I started saying last night is, what is this community? Because we've got people fleeing the schools, and it's not, and I'm telling you what, it's not because of the teachers, it's not because of the administration. There's other issues at work here, so I'm not blaming them by any stretch. But we've had a jump of what was it, almost 50 kids additional leaving from one year to the other. We know that we have a sizable senior population. Everyone that, and this is pure, not data driven. This is just pure experience. So take it for what's worth. But everybody seems to be moving into the community. Our retirees don't have children. So who are we looking to attract, and where are our dollars best spent? I mean, a public education is a guarantee, and the kids in this community deserve it. But what about the rest of the people in this community? What do they deserve? And how do we attract more people in here? How do we attract people to reinvest in here, to purchase the houses that are sitting there vacant and bring them back onto the tax rolls? One of the things I'm most proud of is last year at the auction is 3 Main Ave. It was a vacant lot that we weren't getting no taxes on. We sold it for maybe, I don't know, 20, 30,000 after the lawyer's fees from titles and everything. Probably didn't get that much out of there, but a brand new house sits on that today.
That's right.
So what is this community and what do we want? And that's what you're seeing from the balanced budget.
First off, I just want to make sure that the public understands what putting those expenses into the school system, because I have heard this argument, and I know you've heard it, Donna, and you've
Yep.
heard it
Yep.
too, Dominic,
Yep.
in the past years about, are we reaching net school spending? Are we exceeding that? Are we doing what other communities are doing? And that employee benefit amount was always kind of like, it's been laying over on the town side, so does it count towards that? And it just seemed kind of like a sticking point of, well, we're not putting enough into the schools, but that money was over there.
That's real money that the
It's real
town
money
has
that
to
the
spend.
town is spending on education, and I want the public to understand
Right.
that. And I think maybe it is better represented in their budget where it
Yeah,
belongs.
I
We
would
know
agree.
that and this is, and they have their budget. They are the administrators. They are doing the best they think and the best they can with it. But we saw in the presentation, there was approximately, after they had the cuts last year, massive cuts. They hit it. I see it from the unemployment. But during the year, there's been 9 new hires. Well, nobody consulted me, and there's no transfer over to the health insurance line. How are we going to pay for those? They have no obligation to budget for that. And it's not that they're bad guys. They moved some that were contractors into full-time. Makes sense because the actual dollars that you spend on the salaries were far less. But the benefit side is getting picked up on it. So if all of those are in there in a lump sum, if the unemployment, you can't lay somebody off and then hire somebody else to
pay more.
go in there without taking the hit.
That's right.
And this is what we suffered, not because of the last 2 years, but for, I'm guessing, closer to a decade with everything. It's never been thought of. And I think this also holds us accountable on the town side as well, that if I'm bringing in a new person, I know how much we have in the health line. And if we're not going to make it, well, I have to explain where the money's going to come from.
No
So
one's ever done that.
Are you doing that now, or do you,
That's what I want to do with the balanced budget.
could we do that across the board?
It would be,
Every department ought to know what the loaded cost of employee is.
you could put it in there for each department, what the cost of the employee is, but that's, I'm going to be blunt, that's labor intensive.
But just as
I think it
a-
has been,
Let's
actually,
start
it's
with
been
it, let's start
done.
with
Yeah.
an
I think it was,
average then.
it was attempted
Let's
by
not try
a
to get to
prior,
the fine point, but let's get
interim
a
Yeah.
sense of what that is.
Yeah, because I mean, the family plans that can run close to 20,000 a year, of which we're responsible for 67.5%.
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it-
and, but
Huge, huge.
here's the thing too, the employees worked with us without getting something back. It wasn't, you're gonna get a 3% raise or anything, and they went down from 75.5 to 67.5. And that's part of the reason why we've stopped for a few years climbing at 11% rates, including going over to the Mayflower, which when we went over to the Mayflower, some of the costs increased for employees as well for co-pays that they agreed to. Through the PEC. So, that was one of my frustrations last year, was I knew the employees that are part of this system did give back, and they gave back in a major way, because when you're talking about 7.5% of $20,000, and that's about $1,500 a year, and you could be talking about somebody making $32,000 or less. Could be a major portion, so.
Well, I encourage you to do that. I think it's great, and having years ago run into the same problem you're running into, people that they hire folks, don't include the benefits and don't even include the equipment. So somebody would show up and there was no desk. Oh, I forgot about buying a desk. Well, the answer was, it's a loaded cost. Show me you can afford that, and then you can hire the person before you sign the rec. I would encourage you to do it across the board, because I think there are some other departments
But
that.
none of the
you know,
departments, Derek does all the hiring. There isn't a department that can do anything without his approval,
That's true.
besides the school.
But does the,
Besides the school.
we are going, the school needs to know how much an employee costs, the total cost.
I think that they do, well, they do, and I
Yeah,
think they do that.
everybody does.
But I think the point here is that, they've always known, but now they're just gonna be a little more accountable for their own.
Accountable is the correct word.
You know, go
exactly.
ahead, Donna.
Accountable is the correct word.
And
That's
that's
what
why,
it's
I'm sorry, Donna, for the first year, I proposed in here a mitigation fund of close to $500,000. Well, it was $500,000, putting in a line. But if somebody needs to go in that, we have to go to town meeting and explain what happened. Because I'm gonna tell you, this is uncharted for us. I don't know, with putting that money in there, you know, we should have a buffer, but we better have a very good explanation of why we're going into that. And if it's, all our estimates were off, we had a major change, well, you know we're gonna get beat up on town meeting floor, so we better be ready for it.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Donna.
I can appreciate what you're dealing with, Derek, but you made a comment, and, you know, why are all these kids jumping ship and going to school choice? And again, we as a community, I mean, you can only do so much with the municipal side. We have got to somehow change the perception of our schools. That's where it's at, because
It isn't there, it's the other kids in the class. That's what the parents are running away from. Let's face it.
well, our kids, I mean, there are children getting a good quality education there that want to get an education there, and that their parents are involved. How can we stop these kids from jumping ship? Do they have the right to the free choice? Is that, we have to pay
We
that?
have to do it?
Have to do it.
You have to pay everything? You have to pay to transport?
But you have to
Whatever
pay
the-
everything.
No, not
You have
transport,
to
no.
be a little proactive too. I mean, there are towns right around us that are campaigning for students.
Exactly,
They're
and that's
putting
what
out
we need to do.
beautiful brochures, come and educate your child in our town. You know, I mean, Wareham has to get in on the action somewhere along the line. I mean, I do know that they're doing some great things, and I connect with them, it's through social media, and I watch what happens, and I think it's really great. But we have to do that, and, you know, yeah, is it sometimes the neighborhoods and the children in the schools? Yeah, the parents are afraid of that. Let's not be stupid. They're definitely afraid of that. But we have to change it. We have to be,
But I don't think
as
that,
in a complete town, change it.
We have to sell our schools. We do, because they're doing a darn good job, I think,
I know that, but excuse me, Madam
what they
Chair,
have.
I don't believe a lot of those numbers, as you call ship jumpers, I don't believe that a lot of that has to do with just quote the quality of Wareham education.
Oh, yes, it does.
No, listen to me now, listen to me now. I don't believe that. I believe that there are many choices out there that are available to everybody. And just because someone opts to use one of those other availabilities, there's not jumping ship because of the quality of Wareham. It is just a choice. Maybe half of them are jumping ship because they feel the quality, but I just believe that when people have choices, they're gonna opt to take choices, whether or not it's, well, the reason might be, have nothing to do with what we're thinking about. They just have a choice to go somewhere else. They feel that's the choice they wanna make. Doesn't mean they made it because Wareham has a bad school. Their choice was, I wanna go to this school. Maybe they have other family members in that school. Maybe they heard something else good about that school. Doesn't mean they left for a bad reason. They just left.
Do we know where these students, I mean, you may not be the right person, we're into the education and they're not here, but.
They know where they've gone to, whether it's
No, where they
ORR.
come from. One of the thoughts is this the group that lost the override that are now yanking their kids out and sending them someplace else?
I mean,
Because if that's the case, we got a real problem, because there's nothing to stop huge numbers of them. Let's say that it's, I mean, we've gone through, you can break the town down by various economic areas. And if it's the high economic area that voted for the override and lost, Are they now taking their kids out and sending them someplace else because they do believe that somebody provides a better education for something? You know, I mean, we're competing against folks that have a higher percentage of their graduates go to college. Why is that? I don't know. You know, is it guidance counselors? Because if you know, you can get a good guidance counselor helps you figure out what college you can go to, how to get funding to get in it, and so forth. In fact, kids from this town, who have good grades, would probably go to get into Harvard for scot-free because that endowment fund funds students who don't have any money, and there's a lot of them there. So we need to, somewhere along the line, we got to start analyzing that, because if we got a problem with the folks that have it moving their kids out, and the other folks voting not to spend any more in taxes, we're in real trouble, because that's just going to spiral out of control. You can't, we'll have to start cutting the buildings or something, I don't know.
We
Who's analyzing that? Is the school guy doing that?
He would know. I don't know if he'd know where they're from, where they're going.
Well, I'd want to know that. I want to know by precinct, how the precinct voted and where these kids are coming from.
Yeah. We know the strength of our community. It's a diverse community, it's probably one of the most. It's amazing. It attracts a lot of people. We've got, during the storm, how many reports did you hear of neighbors helping neighbors? You've got great communities here. They're sectored off a lot of times. You've got them, whether it's Onset, Shangri-La, Parkwood, Swiss Beach, but they're great communities.
I'm not saying they're not.
No, and that's not, I'm just listening at some of the things that I see as some of the strengths of this community. It's, so there's a lot of people that care for one another. You've got people that have lived here multi-generational, and you've got people coming in with new ideas. That's great. We have world-class beach areas. We've got 2 main streets, essentially, that are right by the water. We have Wareham Crossing, location. We have a new Marriott hotel. But what's the number one thing you hear about our community as the negative? And that's crime.
Crime. They say we're a rural community with an urban population.
Yeah, actually, yes. That's what
It's
the
not-
data, that's what the
it's not
data
just
shows.
Yes.
Crime so much as-
Exactly.
The data shows that exactly.
Yeah. So where do you put your money to stop?
I know what I'd like to see.
Where would you put your money to stop those issues, to stop that perception? Because our schools have that perception as well.
Oh, yeah.
They suffer from
Yeah.
that.
When there are kids dying, because of what's going on, it's a sickness, it's an illness,
Right.
and it's happening not in just this community,
Right.
it's happening in communities right next door, okay?
Absolutely, and
And when parents are afraid of that,
Yep.
Right.
their kids are 15, 16 years old, and they're
Drugs.
getting that influence.
It's a drug problem.
It
There's a
doesn't
drug
mean
problem
changing a
everywhere.
school and changing a community is gonna change the situation or the child, but, they're hoping it will.
And that's my question for this community when thinking about it. What do we want to do? And it's, it sounds, a lot of times I think about it because I call it our community. I don't live here, but I spend more time here than I do from home. This is the major part of my life besides my wife and children. So, and that's what I'm trying to figure out. How do we change those perceptions? Is it, do you have an officer on every street? Do you go hog wild like that? What is it? Do we start trying to network and bring in state assets and invite some of the buildings, empty buildings we have, see if we can give it over to a task force of some sort? And that's really what we need to think about. We have scant resources, but where are they best served being spent, and how do we maximize our return? And that's what we really need to figure out.
But then you have to figure out how you're gonna get the support for it. And the question is, it is diverse, but is there enough people who care, who value that?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, I think there is.
Well, no, but why'd they vote the way they did? I don't know. Just.
I don't think, you can't say that, there were plenty of people that were scared, of, the cost, and they just don't have it. And that, people say, well, I've heard it 100 times, oh, it's the cost of one dinner out. Well, it was, the cost of one dinner out for a family that doesn't have it is a big deal.
It
Okay.
doesn't eat out.
Huh?
That
It doesn't
doesn't
eat
eat
out,
out.
exactly. So I get it, it doesn't, their vote no didn't mean they didn't care.
It's the ones
But-
that didn't
They
show
vote
up
with their
and vote.
pocketbooks,
Yeah,
absolutely.
there's certainly those that didn't show
Show
up
up
or
and vote.
aren't involved, definitely is the situation, but this is what we have to deal with now. And I think I'd be more interested in hearing, we're gonna go into this budget hearing, and you alluded to changes and doing things like that. What are we looking forward to from hearing from the, department heads of how they're, do they have some plans in place as to?
What I've asked for them is to basically go over what their previous expenditures are, why they're requesting any sort of increase, what's been going on with their departments, any of the ones that make revenue, to explain what sort of revenues they generate, how could they generate more, if there were additional funds, or if there were an additional staff member. Basically, what could make them a better department.
Okay. I have one question here as I was going through the numbers here at the bottom. And maybe I'm just not seeing how it works. But when you get to the 224 county and state assessments, how does that just disappear?
That is all, that's, the state and county assessments, the
Yep.
majority of them, almost a little over 2.8 million.
Yep,
That's retired teachers' health insurance,
okay,
which is, I'm guessing I think that's close to about 1.3 million, and the rest of that is school choice sending and charter school sending. So those are all the assessments that we are directly are hit because of either the retired teachers or students going elsewhere.
okay.
Towns with the same average tax.
And then the other ones, the 259, 287, that's our assessment for regional transportation, which would be the GATRA, also the mosquito control, and some of the more miscellaneous.
Okay. So,
And again, that's what I don't think people in this community see. Those are the real dollars that we expend on education.
right. So that slid, that is actually, I mean, now that money is up in this 33, what do you got going on here?
33,680,569.
Okay, so it's being adjusted into there, but I still can't figure out how you managed to make almost $2 million disappear.
Well, it would be because when you realize we were funding them at 12% over the minimum net school spending
I
budget.
got you. Okay. All right.
And this is a difficult one. That's why I think us sitting down together. I'm a product of a public school education. I believe in it. I actually fairly wasted it, to be blunt. I was in probably the lower end of my class because I was a bit of a smart aleck and thought I would work for my old man. Later on in life, he told me he wouldn't hire someone like me, and I went laboring at 6 in the morning, realized I didn't like that too much, so, yeah. So, that's, and I'm sorry if I've gone a little philosophical on this, but I think it's more than, even though I'm known as the numbers guy, I know it's more than just numbers, and that's what we
Well,
need
I
to
was
figure
just trying to
out.
move it around to figure out, yeah, it was, so we're talking really, that's $8,243,776 is what the town has been carrying, if that's the difference you have on here between the old and the new.
Correct.
Did everybody understand that?
Yep.
Now, have we spoken with, or we sat down with the school, and are we going to sit down and reanalyze their budget with this?
Yeah, we can have the school come before you with the budget. They asked about the all-day budget hearing, whether they'd be part of it, and I have to be honest, I don't think that's the best day to do it. You're going to be,
Too much to swallow.
yeah, that's going to be, so. I would also ask Bonnie if, Madam Chair, excuse me, if maybe there's somebody that could be a liaison from this committee, that if we ever have any conversations or something like that, whether it's yourself or someone else that has some availability, that has a good grasp on some of the things, not that everybody doesn't, if you could let me know, I'd appreciate it.
I had two liaisons, are you, is it supposed to be Marilyn?
I'm going to the
Well,
12th,
the school?
Oh, yeah, so you
Yeah,
had the, is
the
it,
school.
is
Yeah,
it Jeff
me-
and
me-
Marilyn?
No, me and
Marilyn and
Marilyn.
Dominic.
Marilyn.
Marilyn.
Oh, it's Marilyn
Yeah.
and Dominic, so
Yeah.
you two are alternating, and Marilyn is out of town for the month.
Right, she's gone, so she gave it to me, and
Okay.
did they reschedule, Kelly? Remember they canceled the meeting in the storm? I called to see if they're going to one in the storm, I haven't heard it being rescheduled yet.
Did the committee knows that all the members that we've rescheduled the all-day public, the hearing to
Thursday,
the
right?
19th, the
To the
all-day
19th.
FinCom hearing?
We have a paper on it, Kelly gave us one,
Okay.
Yeah, it's not the
19th.
12th now, it's going to be the 19th,
at 8 o'clock,
Yeah.
Thursday the 19th at
8
8
a.m. in this
Yeah,
room.
yeah,
Yeah.
we have a paper on that.
Okay, so for right now, it's Dominic is their liaison
Okay.
with the school. It's actually supposed to be Dominic and Marilyn sharing, but Marilyn is out of town for the month.
Yeah, I decided to do it because I'm also on the budget committee on the Upper Tech,
Yep.
and
Dom,
I've been learning way too much over there. I don't want, this is televised, so I don't want to speak right at the moment. Okay, I don't want to get myself in trouble,
Yet,
big trouble.
Is the 190,000 from them, is that from them, or is that your estimate about?
That's an estimate of 12 students and a 2% increase overall of their budget. Even the way they weight it, and Dom, I think you've seen it, even though they can go up 4%, but Wareham's cost historically has been a little bit lesser than everybody else's, because I think what they also receive on the Chapter 70 end.
They get
Yeah.
more from Wareham because of the income.
Right.
I saw that, and I have a chart on that. The other towns that are involved are hiring, they get less from the state to help Upper Tech because of the income.
So even when they go up about 4%, our assessment usually would only go up about 2%. And my understanding is that's a pretty fair assessment right now. And if it goes up any more, well, I'm in trouble. I'll have to rebalance. Dom, tell them to hold back.
I'm trying.
The one thing I would like to hear from the department meeting is opportunities to spend money where there's a return of 2 to 3
Tom, you want
years.
to turn your mic on, please? Want to repeat your question?
I would just like to see opportunities where if we invest $1, we can get a reward for at least 30 cents on an annual basis and get paid back from a lower operating cost.
Okay.
I mean, we have initiated some things, like kiosks and things like that.
No, I understand what Tom means. It's almost
know
like
what
what
he
we're
means, yeah.
doing with assessing by we hired somebody that has a lot of the reval experience, and we're going to be changing one position to a data collector, which means we no longer will have to go out for these major data collecting. We can do it in-house, which while there's the back-end costs of it, when we're trying to budget at the end of 2-3 years, and you have to kick over an extra $300,000, it looks to be a cost savings. So.
Well, and merging dispatches and stuff like that, where we put things together and get more efficient in doing some of the overhead things
Yeah,
that
I
we're doing.
mean, you're speaking about regionalization and that,
Right.
and that's not going to be coming from us. That's going to be coming from realistically, I'm going to tell you, we need to have overtures from the outside, because I know the chairman's reached out left and right, and while we may think it's a good idea and would like to move forward, I don't know that we've received the same vibe, if you will, to get my
Maybe we have
culture
to
in.
shorten our skirts or something, whatever.
It's ever since I put the weight on, Tom, it's just,
Not getting the woman fuzzies, are you? I think that, I mean, they've definitely gotten together in the past on a few things that have worked out. Wasn't it, what was it, cameras or beepers or something. Look at me like that. I mean, we came together and we made it work. So, oh, all right, I'll leave it alone, but I think it's still a possibility.
This is
We-
like.
We have to do something to,
Well, usually, I mean, it comes from basically a budget that gets so tight. You have a list of things and you can't afford it, and then you get creative as to how the heck can I still make this happen? And I start giving up territory.
The problem is that
Good.
the two municipalities are not restricted by Proposition 2.5. If they need money, they just go to their town meeting, and they just ask for it, and usually gets what they the citizens don't come in any numbers, and the employees do, and next thing you know, they pass the budget. It's too expensive, like 8 to 10%, no problem.
you're not on a mic, he's mad at you over there.
It's okay.
Um,
No trouble with that.
and you're right, I have never been to a water district meeting, ever. I've never voted at a water district, and I'll admit that, somebody can beat on me later. There's not enough people that are involved in their own personal water district. They are very, very territorial on what they built, and what belongs to them, doesn't belong to the town. We might get to borrow it here and there, if we're nice. But I think that if we're gonna have a future in this town, we have to come together and work together over these situations. So it doesn't hurt to keep working on it.
The one interesting thing, though, I mean, it's almost better to share and go in on things, because if we bring the districts in under Proposition 2.5, yeah, you get the increase for a few years, but you're still going to trend right back to where now you've got an issue because you have to buy fire trucks and you can't afford it under Proposition 2.5,
Right.
so.
Right, so it has its benefits on both ways, but as I said, when it comes to working together on a project to get something done, I think it can be worked out and it can be beneficial for both sides.
I'll admit it, I have budget envy.
They run the district.
Yeah, I've seen it, and I have budget envy, I do, I really do.
But isn't that gonna come from the citizens who've gotta vote and say something
The
about it?
citizens, all right, tell the public, the citizens have to go and be active and be educated and find out what their water districts are really doing.
Well-
What's in water district had 12 people at the last meeting, and I was one of them. 12. Okay?
Go ahead, Tom.
Does the water district pay rent for the use of the streets where their pipes run under?
No.
Like Verizon and,
I know what you're talking about, the
Comcast?
utilities, no, there's no utility fee, and, there's no payment in lieu of taxes for the lands either.
is that appropriate?
Wouldn't it?
You have to read the laws that were written a long, long time
Yeah.
ago. Those guys were really, really smart. And they wrote some laws and rules that you will never change. I've seen it tried to be changed, and it goes nowhere.
All right, let's move on.
Could I just,
Oh,
in anticipation of the 19th, okay, I was just doing my usual thing, trying to dig in and trying to understand where we are relative to others. I will not use Sandwich and Middleborough as a model. Pass them on, I have some for you guys too.
I think I got my teeth kicked in on a
Well,
sandwich
well,
comparison, so I'm
what?
always sore on it.
One more. I got one already,
I think it was one, that was one that,
Yep, there you go. One for you, one for Tom, and one.
One
more,
I even
need
Kelly
one.
for the minutes.
yep. If it's passed out, it has to go to Kelly.
Kelly too.
Has to go to Kelly, all right.
That's open meeting law, whatever.
Open meeting for you. This is actually the same database that you,
Give one out.
when I asked you the question, you put me a link to it. I'd already found it.
Jeff has to find bigger font.
One Alan.
Okay.
One Claire, too, will you please?
All I wanted to do is I'm trying to educate myself as to what makes sense and not trying to understand where everything fits. So I found a very unique database, what Derek already knew about, that you could dump things into an Excel spreadsheet. All this is it's got every town. All I did was group it because in anticipation of the questions about Wareham is unique, I grouped it into same population, same per capita income, and same average taxes paid per family. And started to look at groupings of towns. I can give you the actual data. Actual towns that are behind this. This is just a summary. So under the, by population size, there were 45 towns between 16,000 and 24,000 people. We're right in the middle of it. You just look at the average over in the grouping in the right-hand side is what they spend. Under various areas, DPW, public safety per person, police per person, general government, human services, debt service, and fixed costs, et cetera. And looked at both the average and the median, and the percentage underneath it represents where Wareham stands against that particular percentage. So for example, if you look at DPW relative to the towns of the same population, our budget per mile of road is 42% of what they spend. So we've hit that one pretty hard.
No, but can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Yeah.
Not to rain on the parade or anything here, but you have, your average, income. These right here are flawed a little because we have a lot of houses where there's just a lot of, summer people here. A lot more than you think. And that throws these numbers.
Half of our population.
It throws these
Half of
numbers
it.
tremendously off. That's why I'm saying it's hard to judge this.
Can you just bear with me for a
No, I
second?
will. I'm just
Because
trying
if
to
you
say,
don't,
yeah.
if you don't start taking these kind of approaches, you will never get to the bottom of the problem.
I didn't say that, but it's hard for you to throw apples here against apples.
How about Yarmouth that's got loaded with summer cottages?
Not much.
More
not as
summer
much-
cottages than we have.
Oh, I doubt that.
Oh, they do.
Oh, okay.
How many of
You
our,
could be right, you could be right.
how many of our summer cottages are now actually full-time occupied and rented in the winter?
That's true.
A fair number of them. I would argue that's an issue for us.
Hey, I live in Onset Shell Point, and I'm gonna say 40% of the homes on Shell Point right now are vacant.
How many in onset are occupied year-round?
I'm just going to one section,
Well, you gotta ask those questions.
I
Okay,
understand,
just,
but one
just bear
section
with
is
me for a
40%
minute here.
vacant. Okay.
Okay, so you do it by population. You look at it also by income per capita, okay, 16 to 24K. We slipped to 20K per person under the latest data. This is state data. This is a state
No, I
database.
understand it, yep.
So we're in that area, okay? And again, you can look at the median. There's 64 towns. The problem is too many of them are small. So you start to look at, okay, ones that have a population between 10,000 and 60,000, okay? And then you find out where they are and how we compare again. And you can see, we have done a number on human services. We've done a number on all those things already. We've brought those way down below other towns around us. You want to talk about who's going to come here. When they start seeing that and hear about it, that's an issue. You can argue about some of those things, but some people want those, some don't. The other interesting thing in the right-hand side is the state aid as a percentage of their budget. When you get into the larger ones, and this was the question, we're a rural town that actually is urban. That's exactly right. That shows up here.
Sure it is.
Shows up right here, and the fact that if you put us among the rural ones, we look like we get a lot of state aid. You put us against the urban ones, and all of a sudden, we're nowhere near what they're getting. So there's an issue for us. Okay, another one, compared to the average tax bill, okay, our bill is low on a per family basis, okay, but let's group it with other people that are also low and get down so we have an apples to apples comparison. And again, you find, the different areas where we ought to ask some questions when we budget. That's where I raised the question about the police. These are not Middleborough and this is not Sandwich. These are people like us that manage to run departments, and there's a number of roads and everything you want to look at. And so, when I get in there on the 19th, the police chief, I'm going to ask him, I want to see an organization chart, I want to see span of command, numbers of layers between the patrolman, and the chief, and so forth, because that's where you save money. You got to take
You're
it.
gonna be so shocked.
What? Well, maybe, I may be, okay, but educate me, because if the public doesn't know, you can't expect them to support you when you sit there and ask for more money. And asking them for more money last year in the override to make it a wonderful community ain't gonna get the order. It didn't. To say that if we don't do something,
It was done wrong.
if we don't do something, and we have compared, it's interesting, when you look at the school costs, they aren't that far off. And actually, the transportation, it's amazing that we have any buses that still run. It's much lower than everybody else. I don't know what he does with them all, but then you can ask the question, you could lease brand-new buses perhaps for what it's costing us to refurbish and try and keep these old things.
Oh, don't you
together.
start me on the bus thing, Jeff.
All right.
I have a
will.
few months left here not to talk about buses.
I
A
will,
long time ago.
I will feel free to raise any issue until I get educated. My approach is, I'll raise the issue, you educate me, and you may convince me that you got it. But unless the question gets asked, I don't see how we're ever going to solve anything. And so these are some of the things you look at. There are people out there in other towns that are managing some of these areas as effectively as we are. Now, they ought to come to us on how the heck we do these things, some of our things so low, because you got them way down. I think you're squeezing blood from a turnip or something on some of these things. You know, for example, the admin, you need more analysis help. I tell you that right now. You know, and we're operating in the blind if you don't have somebody that basically is working alongside you, basically crunching these numbers and helping you figure out where to go. That's false economy. But we may need to take it from somebody else. That's all. That's my point. So that's kind of where,
Well, it's definitely interesting reading.
because I just come from, if I don't know what the other guy's doing, I'm never going to find best practices.
I mean, you're right on a lot of things, there's just a lot of other things that go in here. I mean,
I
on the
understand.
I mean, what about the trailer parks? You know, there's a lot of
That's a good-
trailers. There's a lot of different
Pieces in the soup.
variables here that it's hard to compare when, it's hard to do a comparison with multiple variables, that's all I'm saying. You have one town
most-
here and another
No.
town here, then you have a lot of variables, so to compare them, how do you justify the percentage of the variables?
You start to
me,
look,
it's difficult.
what other towns have a lot of trailer parks? How about Salisbury
I think
on the
it's
border?
right
They
now.
used to, they don't anymore.
But I mean, our trailer
Maybe you
parks,
should
there's
talk to
only
them.
one trailer park, isn't there, that's not over 55, is that correct?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
but they don't pay,
They don't pay
the
any
park itself
property
pays
Property
tax,
tax, yes.
not each individual household. And it's, if you divide the amount of trailers in the trailer park and do the property tax, it's wicked low. That percentage is tremendously low.
Which is,
You know what I mean? You understand what I'm trying to say? No, in other words, if you did it per house, the income would be tremendous.
I understand too, but I mean,
Okay.
like I said, there are at least three that are
Oh,
over
there's a lot of them.
55.
Oh, I don't know what
That
they
are
are,
over
but there's a lot,
55,
there's a bunch of
and they're
them.
not using a lot
Let me-
of town resources.
let me,
And I feel exactly the same way about them as I would if we put a nice, big, giant, over 55 apartment building in. You're gonna get the
they're gonna pay
property
more.
tax from
Property
the
tax with
building
no kids.
itself,
That's the thing.
and that's it. So I don't think there's a loss there, that we got a win
Let me,
going
no,
on
I would
there.
argue there was. If you put a bricks and mortar up and they're paying bricks and mortar, they're paying property tax on
That's
that,
right.
full property tax value. And the way this country is structured is those are the people that pay for the kids going to school. That's what you have to have, and we don't have it. If they're living in places that they don't pay taxes, then we're not getting the money we need to fix the schools, to do the very thing that we were just talking about.
It's scary.
Donna agrees with Jeff.
This is scary. Record this.
On that one issue only.
Oh, no.
All righty,
You swayed me in a few, I'll sway you in a couple.
Moving on, Madam
moving
Chair.
on.
Thank you.
Just remember, the FY15 police budget is $500,000 lower than the FY13 police budget that was in here.
Yes,
I understand.
it's true.
If you
Um,
don't ask, they don't look.
Okay, now, you were talking about increasing debt service and all that. Do you have some plans for some capital items? Are we gonna see anything coming up?
Yeah, we obviously have the capital plan that's going forward. I mean, speaking of the school, it's, I remember talking about them putting in their budget repairs to repair the air conditioning units on the high school, and every year it was put in 10,000-15,000. You repair that one, you repair the next one. So by the time you're done with it, you're going back to the gang and you've never fixed them. And that's the type of stuff we need to do. Fix it once, get it more efficient, instead of just limping along. A lot of it's going to be into our buildings and probably vehicles for the first year. I mean, our newest, our brand-new baby of a snow and ice, for the snow and ice, the snowplow vehicle is 10 years old. And you might not know this, but when you spread salt, it tends to rot out vehicles, so they don't last that long. We really need to go through the items, and a lot of them, what I want to go for first are the ones that do give a return on our investments, are creating more efficiencies, the boilers, the things such as that. I mean, Mr. McMillan from the school talked about that. Absolutely. Let's take care of the roof, because you know, leaky roof is also a great inefficiency. Redo the boilers. Let's save money. I mean, probably from the town hall, just putting in, trying to get a central air system in there, which people say, well, that's a luxury. Hell, well, we've got about, about 40 window units in there that take a week to put in, including cutting all the sides out, and a week to
Energy
take
cost.
out. Yeah, I mean, you look at our debt service line, and that's where we ask how are other communities doing it, and debt service is
how they're
one of
doing
the
it.
biggest ones.
That also shows up here.
Right.
Come on, guys,
you know.
stop jumping back and forth. I might have to have Donna sit in between the two of them.
So, I mean, those are gonna be some of the items.
Okay, so making
Madam-
some
Madam
smart
Chair.
investments.
A question on your debt service, question
ahead, Don.
direct through you. Can we borrow to put into the general budget? Is that legal?
No,
Never a good idea.
yeah.
I understand that, but.
You know,
times
we
are
essentially
really-
did that. If you remember, they had you had the stabilization fund. They brought it up to close to 700,000, and then brought it down to $64,000. And that's what they were doing. They were borrowing against the future, that stabilization, and using free cash into the budget as well. And that's what essentially everybody was limping along. And I know exactly what's going to happen. If we're coming to town meeting floor, and if there's not enough money, what the people in the school feel, or let's say the library, maybe even the police, somebody's going to make the suggestion of going towards the free cash, and that is absolutely the worst thing this community could do.
Okay.
That's also in here.
Yeah.
Free cash.
Yep.
We need to drive that home. We need to
Yeah,
drive
I
that
was
home.
gonna
Yeah.
say that. I mean, keep educating people and understanding this is the best, the best things to do financially.
What-
Um,
What you guys did last year was,
That's great.
was clearly, you had a great town meeting. It went really smooth, smoothest one I've ever been to. So keep on doing what you're doing, and informing, and doing the moderator, and Matt, and everyone else. I think it was tremendous success. How we get people to come out and care, that's a different story. None of us have figured that one out yet. But I think you're gonna see a lot more people out now. They're starting to feel the crunch of the town hall being closed one day a week. It's not only that, you've got to deal with people in the departments. You've got hardly anybody in departments, and they've got all this sick time, and they've got all vacation time. So you try to get something done in the town, sometimes it can be a real challenge.
Absolutely.
And that's all I'm gonna say, Alan.
Supported by this.
There's gotta be some opportunity
Right.
to consolidate. I mean, why are we in this building at all,
The town?
the town?
Oh, I can't.
We've got the harbor master's office in here, and then we've got just the social daycare and COA.
but they pay rent, right?
The
They pay rent?
the school has to pay a portion of all the building costs. The town actually pays for this
Right.
building. And
But
then we have-
I mean, there's classes and stuff that downstairs. I mean, don't they pay rent for what they do down there?
Oh, no, it's a multi-service building. Those classes are,
I
Madam
didn't
Chairman.
bring that up.
Madam Chairperson.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm trying to behave.
You gotta behave.
I gotta behave, okay. Following your line of logic about the air conditioning and so forth, at what point when do you respond to Dom's question about putting a dime in any of these buildings versus moving into something that basically is gonna last us for 35 years that may be new, or refurbish something else somewhere in town? I mean, that's capital budgeting, which, and I don't know how much, whether people still convert these things into senior living and so forth. It was a fad for a while, but that's been done. I mean, those are the questions that you got something. I guess I would encourage you to, if you do it, just take a look at what would it be if I really did it.
Yeah, I mean,
How
the
much would it
interesting
save
thing
me?
is, people say, well, why don't you move the seniors into the library, and then they can pay for some of the costs over there. Okay, well, then your budget for the COA that you have from the grant is essentially down to where you can't even fund one employee because they're paying for all the expenses of the library, and that's not going to function. Is that library building a good building? I'm gonna get shot. It's not what you
It's not a
need
good-
for a
okay,
library.
yeah.
It really isn't. But there's so much pride that went into that, and it's people put their heart and soul. Is a multi-level town hall functional? No, it's
No, it's
I
not.
mean, it's awful. You send people from one spot to another. Is there plans to try and put some of the departments together and have them share a little bit of staff? Absolutely. But you have to make it work, and none of that's going to be an overnight. You've seen we've changed some of the some rooms around in there. You know, we've got paper that's just coming out of everywhere, which you can't throw out.
It's too
Should
bad
we-
it wasn't in
yeah.
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn,
Warehouse.
do we need a storage facility of our documentation where you can line everything up? Because I will tell you right now, you look in there, I don't care how much institutional memory's around, you couldn't find anything. You know, in some of these, if you're looking for some of these past documents.
Throw the shit
So-
away. That's my opinion.
This is the,
Throw it away.
All right,
Can't you digitalize it?
we've done some of that, haven't we? Wasn't there some funding to do some of that stuff? Clerk's office,
yeah.
and some of that has been done, right?
Yes.
All right, let's move on, because I'm gonna lose Joan, she don't feel good over there. All right, do you have anything else to discuss with us, Mr. Town Administrator?
No, this has been the major part. I know people will
Using
ask
the-
about the cost of the store, We're not gonna have that for a little while. You know, easily when you have a storm that I think is afoot, we're easily spending 90 to 100,000, so we know there'll be great expenses. So the snow and ice budget, luckily, we increased it as part of being fiscally responsible to, you know, probably realistically should increase it another 100,000 for the 3-year average, but I don't see that happening. We did not spend close to 265,000 worth of the free cash. However, we know that we're going to need 39,000 of that and come for the Springtown meeting for the new voting machines, because ours have just completely gone down. If you remember, one of them went down, and that's an important part of our whole function, is having the proper voting machines. Would I love to spend on something else? Yeah, absolutely, but it's part of our core function. So after that, I really don't see us dipping into the rest of that. So it'll give us, besides the 300,000+, another $200,000 reserve, which actually is probably going to be wiped out by the 265,000 extra that we got hit for the state school choice sending assessment. So it's a good thing we held that.
good thing we
Good
have it.
thing you held
Yeah.
back.
Good thing you have it.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, so that's good.
So when people ask us why we don't spend everything to zero, this is why.
Madam Chair, one quick thing.
Go ahead, Dominic.
Derek, I just want to commend you on the snow removal. Whoever decision it was to call the small plow trucks in, and just go with the bucket loaders was absolutely the right decision. I was out there plowing, and it was a waste of time. It came down too quick for small plows to actually handle. I was out there plowing, so whoever called them off, it was to save the town money, you know, as far as, you know, being out there getting stock and wasting money that way. If you only didn't have a bucket loader, you called them in. That was the right decision. I just wanted on the air to let people know, if you weren't out there, you didn't think it was the right decision, but if you were out there plowing, it was the right decision.
Thank you. I know they'll appreciate it, and I do as well. Thank you.
All right. We're done with you then. We're done with that.
Thank you very much. Have a good
Thank
night.
you. And I will see you on the 19th.
We'll have Kelly, once we have the books ready, we'll let you know and whether people can stop by in their travels.
Okay, we can pick them up.
We're open pretty late now.
Yeah, late in the afternoon. Go.
Madam Chair, are we gonna get the order of what's gonna happen on that date also? The order of,
An agenda?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
send out
we'll-
the agenda ahead of time. Again, we usually concentrate on the largest
right,
departments first.
an agenda
So-
would be nice.
Yeah, so especially if people with their jobs, obviously every dollar counts, but those are usually the big ones that most people are interested in, so,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right. Well, before you run off, was there a rumor that there was a change of date for articles to be?
I moved it back from the departments and committees and boards to February 9th.
February 9th, it's been moved back
February
to,
9th?
because of the storm.
Okay, so where we're February 2nd is now gonna be February 9th?
Okay.
All right, so
1 week.
this is the last day for that, is gonna be February 9th.
Everything else stays the same.
Everything else, and so the 12th to submit the petition articles is holding. Okay, all right, that's it, thank you. So that was on your agenda there, so the second now becomes the 9th. And then petition articles will be due on the 12th. We have moved our all-day budget hearing to the 19th, starting at 8 AM right here. Somebody bring the coffee. All right, the 17th.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, you said in this office?
Yes,
Right here.
in this
Thank you.
room at 8 AM.
Thank
Yep.
you.
All right, it's February 17th is the Board of Selectmen to close the warrant, and we should get a draft on the 18th. Everybody got that?
Yep.
Okay, so Derek was saying they're gonna, finish the books, the budget books, which have the department breakdowns. And Kelly will send you an email when that, she gets notified that those are finished, and then you can pop by the, town hall or the board of select, well, actually, they'll probably bring them down to Kelly's office, they usually do that. And so you can pick it up from her, so you'll have them before the 19th. If you haven't gotten them by then we'll just, I'll just go by and pick them up and make sure they're brought over here on the 19th, okay? Do I have any other questions about the, schedule coming up? So our next meeting will be on the I'm sorry.
No,
We'll be on the 18th. It
18th.
looks like we're gonna have to meet back to back. Now that we've changed from the 12th, yeah.
So we're gonna meet on the night before, so the 18th here, and then again in the morning.
And then again in the morning.
Gotcha. Is that gonna be necessary, Madam Chair?
Well, we have to
Okay.
officially receive the warrant.
All right, I just asked a question. I'm not against it, I just asked a question.
Yeah, and we're not gonna have a lot of time with it
Okay.
from that forward. Okay, so our next meeting would be on February the 18th at 6:30. So that gives us, you know, that full week and a half off. Derek had asked for that because the department heads are really busy cleaning up after the storm, and so there's a lot of paperwork and stuff that needs to be gotten through. And with them not being able to have office hours for a couple of days, that's kind of important that they get that done. Do you have any other comments on the schedule coming up?
No, this is mine.
Tom, have you been in contact with David Hurd at all?
I I have not.
Has he been out of town?
I don't know, I will call him and I'll try to hunt him down.
I know he was having email problems when the town website broke down. I just wanna make sure he's getting some sort of communication.
He is,
Okay, alright, just make sure.
because he had inquired as to, he wasn't getting the new one, and then I told him about the lowercase, that's all. And he wrote back and said, thank you, it worked.
Okay,
But that's all the communication I've had with him.
alright. I just wanted to like touch base with him, make sure.
Yes,
A couple of weeks ago.
right.
I'll try
Okay.
to chase him down and let you know.
I just saw, because I really would like his involvement. All right, any other liaison reports? Any other business? Anybody have anything they need to bring up? So our next meeting date will be on the 18th, this room, 6:30.
Madam Chair, can I just throw this out? Does anyone know when the next school committee meeting is? Next Wednesday.
Next
Is
Wednesday.
that the one mixed up for the postponed thing? No, that's regular one, okay. They haven't rescheduled it?
So school committee is meeting on the 11th.
Okay, Wednesday, the 11th, thank you.
What is that, 7 they start?
7 o'clock
Okay.
in the middle school, correct? Thank you.
And on WCTV, 2 days later. You wanna look at it.
Sign this.
All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Thank you very much.
Yeah? $6 million.